Today I have an oval swing card, and as I open it, it swings open, as you can see. And this is made with a template, and here is the full card. So if you're interested in learning just how to make this fun interactive card, stay tuned. Today I'll be using the Heritage paper pack, and it's got a fun vintage rustic look to it. Here's just a preview of the designs. So we've got some creams, browns, reds, some ruddy colors in there. There we go. And then we have the Postcard embossing folder, which is really fun. It's actually quite versatile. You might just think, oh, well, I can only make a postcard looking thing with this, but you can actually cut different sections. You can cut out the border and use it in many different ways, so it's a fun embossing folder to have. The ever so versatile adhesive pearls, a 64 pack, and these are coming on the adhesive strips. And last but not least, the oval swing card template. And this is by Teresa Welch, and it comes with shapes to make the card base, and it also comes with all of the shapes you need to cover that card base, all the different surfaces on there, because there's some irregular shapes that you'll have to cover. And in addition to the swing card template, there is also a swing card pack, or an oval swing card pack, so you can get a pack of these blank cards, and you could even get that in conjunction with this so that you would have a nice template for all of the shapes that you need to cut to cover that card blank. So that's just another option if you wish. Alright, so now let's get into the project. So this is my new Embosser. If you haven't seen last week's episode, I introduced it. It is a electronic die cutting machine, but it also does embossing folders and all that stuff. So kind of replaced the hand crank machine I had before. So what I've done with the Postcard embossing folder is I've simply cut a piece of this pretty paper, just a little bigger than the embossing folder itself. I just like to have a little bit of extra in case some of it kind of moves a little bit and you'll have some a margin of error. So I've got my platforms here, and there's two thick platforms. There's D and C, and then there's A and B. If you're doing a thin metal cutting die, you would use B, but since I'm doing an embossing folder, I put the embossing folder on top of C and A on top of the embossing folder. As you can see, this is like, it used to be a clear acrylic top sheet here, but I've been using this machine so much in the last few days, it's got so many marks of the cutting dies, but it's still working well. It's not causing me any problems, and you can also buy replacements of these if they really wear out. But I've literally cut probably hundreds of shapes on here, and it's still good. So I'm going to line up my sandwich and feed it into this mouth, and this measures this the platform itself is 12 inches long by 8.5 inches wide, so you can actually do full sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper in here. If you want to do, I don't know, there are some larger cutting dies out there and embossing folders, so there's getting more and more out there. So I'm just feeding this into the mouth of the Embosser until it starts moving on its own. There we go. And that's it. It's pretty much hands-free until it comes out the other end. Coming under this flap here. And then once it kind of spits out, I gotta help it along. Alright, and the rollers stop rolling. And it has this nifty little fold-up handle, so I can actually set it aside. I would say this thing is a good 7 pounds-ish. I'm not sure. It might say in the online description. But it's not too heavy, and it doesn't leave too big of a footprint. I think it's about 12 by 9 footprint. So here's my embossed paper. So here is the postcard embossed into the paper. In some areas the paper did get a little bit cracked, but that's okay. I want kind of a rustic look for my card. And you'll notice this is on heavily patterned paper, so it's hard to see. But what I'm going to do next is highlight some of the areas with some ink so that you'll actually be able to see it. So here's my copper StazOn, and it comes in a box like this with an inker bottle and the pad itself. And it also has instructions on the back of the box, so I always keep it in there. And it also comes with a little squeegee here, so you can spread the ink easier. I always like to ink up my pad before I use it, just to make sure it's nice and inked. So you shake the re-inker. I'm just going to do a few drops here. And then you can go ahead and spread it around with the little scraper, which is really handy. And this foam pad isn't meant to absorb the ink. The ink kind of sits on top of it because it's sort of a thick consistency, and you want that ink to stay up top so that your stamp can grab it. So as you can see, if I turn to the side, the ink is not really going down into the ink pad. You can use the ink pad itself for this technique, but you can also use just the re-inker bottle. Because I'm going to be using these cosmetic sponges, I can just use drops of the ink itself onto the sponge, which is really a good technique. It's easy. So I'm working on top of a piece of scratch paper here, and I've got my copper ink, and I'm just going to put a drop or two on the end of this cosmetic sponge, and we'll see. There we go, just testing it a little bit. I don't want it too juicy, so I'm going to hit the raised parts of the postcard design. And you may have to add ink throughout this process so that you don't run dry. There we go. So those little white parts where you could see some of the paper cracking, those are covered up by this copper ink. And you just want to go really lightly. It's nice that this foam sponge is pretty flat so that it will catch all those areas that are on the same level, all those embossed areas. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the whole image to hit all those raised areas, and I will be right back. So I'm going to make the oval swing card, and I'm going to start with some craft cardstock, this kind of brown paper bag color. And so I'm going to start by tracing the main card kind of on the corner of this cardstock here, just in pencil. So I like to line that up on the corner. And so I'm going to trace all the lines, including cut lines and fold lines. I'm not going to do this large oval because that's going to be a separate shape. And you want to remember which lines are supposed to be cut and which lines are supposed to be folded. This one's pretty straightforward. So you're supposed to cut, of course, the outside line and the oval to here and here, and the rest of the lines are just folded. So I've cut out my card, and I've also cut out the oval lines here. And the next step is scoring, and you want to be careful not to score the actual oval, but to score above and below it. And that's the only trick there is to it. So I'm lining up my ruler on that line, and I want to use the back of my knife to just run along just to there, and then pick it up and then score there. And again over here, just at the top, about an inch, and then again the bottom half. And at this point you could come in and erase your lines just so that it looks cleaner. And to fold it, the first, let's see, you could actually do this a couple of ways, but the first fold, I'm going to do it with the oval at the top. The first fold is a mountain fold, so it's coming up at you. And the second fold is a valley fold, so it's the opposite. So you have, once you're finished, you have your oval swing. So this is what it looks like from the front. And then you pull it open and flip, it flips. So it's really fun. Okay, so now time to decorate here. And I want to cut my large oval out right here, and then my small oval kind of with the flowers. So I turned it to the back and I traced my ovals on here. So I traced the large oval right here and the small oval right here. You could make two of these and have these ovals fit a little bit better without going off the edges, but it doesn't bother me too much, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these out and glue them to the card. So here is my card so far. I've got the flowers here on the front panel, and when I open it I have the postcard inside. So this is just a really fun little interactive part of the card. So next I'm going to cover all of the other panels with the patterns here on the template using some of the papers from the Heritage paper pack. And before I glue them on, to keep with the copper theme, I'm going to ink all of the edges of each of the pieces with copper ink, and I will come back after I'm done with that. So I've covered my card, and I do want to mention on the inside, this long strip comes as one on the template, so it's meant to be glued on first before the oval. But since I glued the oval on first, I simply just trimmed this, it's called the spine strip, to fit just on above and below the oval. So here is my card at the moment. So now I'm going to add a few embellishments and a greeting, and I will show you in just a little bit. Alright, so what I've done so far is glued just a strip of the stripe on top of some dot paper and glued that on the right and the left panels here. And what I'm going to do now is try to make these flowers a little bit darker using a Spectrum Noir pen set. This is the reds set, and I'm using DR7, which is the darkest red in the set, and I'm just going to color in just the flowers. See how that adds a bit of contrast to the flowers? Now I'm going to take my self-adhesive pearls and put them in the centers of the flowers. And then I'll add a greeting and a few other items, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here is my finished card. I've added a little bow on the front in this ivory crepe ribbon, and I believe this is available on Paper Wishes as the crepe in the crepe ribbon set. And this With Love stamp is from Just a Little Greeting stamp set. This comes with a whopping 32 stamps on here, and they're all tiny greetings, perfect for little tags. If you have an elaborate card that just calls for a small little word or so, it's great for that. And just like this, I put it on a rectangle of the craft cardstock and simply cut the little corners off to create a tag shape. Inked the edges with the copper and foam taped it right there. And that's pretty much all I did in this clean and simple card, which is fun because I love how I could just do this all day. And I'm sure your recipient will be thrilled with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please stay tuned for today's bundle. In today's bundle, first we have the Oval Swing Card template by Teresa Welch, and it's got all the shapes you need to make the Oval Swing Card base and all of the paper patterns to cover those surfaces. Then we also have the 5mm stick-on pearls by Mark Richards, and these come 64 to a pack, and they come on these strips of adhesive, so you can apply the whole strip or you can cut them apart and use them individually, which is what I like to do. Of course, we have the Postcard embossing folder, and this measures 4 1/8 inch by 5 7/8 inch, and you've got the nice silk screened image on the front, so you're very clear as to which side or how your embossed postcard or card will look. And then we also have the Heritage paper pack, and there are 12 papers in this pack, and on the package there's a really nice scrapbook page idea and card idea. Here's the back. You get a full scrapbook spread idea, and there's the card front and inside, an image of all the papers in the set, and some coordinating products. Let's take a quick look at some of the papers. Here's the really lovely all-around lace border with some cream accents and swirls. We've got the red rose pattern, one of my personal favorites. An all-over, more kind of brownish tinged floral pattern. A brown dot on cream, and it's got some handwriting in this column, which is kind of fun and more texture. We've got a brown stripe with some cream and red mixed in, and another rose, but in brown instead of red. So you'll get 2 of each of those sheets, and once again they are not double-sided, they're single-sided, so the backs are white. So those are all of the items in this week's bundle. Thank you so much for joining me, and please see me again next week. Have a great week.